Okay, we're good to go. So I want to thank people for coming tonight. So the REACH webinar series is being put on due to some funding we were able to get through the Canadian Paralympic Committee that we're very thankful for. The purpose of the REACH webinar series is to raise awareness of paraswimming programming in Ontario, to provide education opportunities and enhance the knowledge within the swimming community regarding paraswimming, to answer common questions and engage in collaborative dialogue with respect to paraswimming, the benefits, challenges, and opportunities, as well as to create, build, and enhance relationships to expand the reach of paraswimming. So this is our third installment. The first two occurred at the Swim Ontario conference on the 26th of September. And so I'm very happy today that we are starting the third session. Our third session is Promote and Connect. And we have Dave Sora and Franco Taverna here who are going to present on this topic. They come to us from the Center of Accessible Sport and Play, and they have wealth of knowledge in inclusive sport. And so I'm very happy to have them here tonight to share their knowledge with us about how to build our programs. And so with that, I'm going to let Franco and Dave take over and do a little bit more introductions of themselves. So thank you guys, go ahead.
Thank you, Darda, and I'll share our screen. We got the introductions right on our share my screen. We got introductions on our slide deck. So there we go. We can see the first slide in the deck. Nod. Is it there? Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. Thank you. We're really pleased to be here to help you connect, promote and connect for new swimming programs, para swimming programs. As Darda said, we are from the Center for Accessible Sport and Play, and one of our feature sort of efforts is a program called Build, which is dedicated to helping organizations start and grow sport and play programs for children or people with disabilities. To introduce ourselves, I'm Franco Taverna. This is a little bit about me. Most important part is that I've been involved in sport programs for children with disabilities for a very long time. And Dave, go ahead and you can introduce yourself and your connection to this space.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Dave Sora. I'm with Center for Accessible Sport and Play. I've got three things there that I guess would put some context for who I am. I'm currently on the Ontario Parasport Collective, co-lead of the Participation Pathway initiative. I'm also the Ontario lead for Jouet. It's an app, navigation app for children with disabilities out of McGill University. And I'm on a research team out of UBC and the BC Children's Hospital called Kids Action Research that's funded by, it's called Child Brain Health Network. And I've spent 13, well, I don't know, years and years, 2 decades in hockey, coaching hockey, soccer, and a little bit of baseball. And I've been working with Franco for the last 13 in the development of the Academy for Accessible Sport out of Pickering Soccer. And I'm also, I lead the community program at Hull and Bloorview.
This is our history. Really, everything you see on this slide came from the simple fact that we went on the field and started to play soccer with kids with disabilities. I could not have imagined what would have come out, what came out of it, but it has brought great joy and great excitement to us, and we're very happy to share that. Our hope is that everyone has the kind of experience that we've had over the last 13 years, including building resources, presentations, publications, and partnership with just nationally relevant, nationally known organizations across the country. It's been a great ride. So we are here to apply kind of the everyone plays philosophy to swimming. Everyone plays, everyone swims. If you're involved in swimming, you know how important it is to learn to swim and to become a swimmer. I think that goes without saying. But what about kids with disabilities? There is an even greater need for kids with disabilities to have opportunities to swim, to learn to swim, and beyond. Go beyond, whatever goals you might have for your participants in your swim club. So there's a significant issue here of children with disabilities with respect to submersion injuries. So the key learning outcomes for today in the context of this third webinar is key messages for reaching different audiences and key strategies for how to reach to them, all with the goal of providing opportunities for people with disabilities to swim. So this slide represents a two-letter word that people with disabilities or parents of kids with disabilities constantly get. We know, we've lived this for many, many years, and we hear about this from parents that they would like their kids to get involved in sport and play and recreation opportunities, but they keep hearing the word no. No, we can't accommodate. No, we are unable to do it. No, your child can't play. So that's awful. So we want to cross this word from our vocabulary when it comes to sport and play for people with disabilities. Interestingly, we hear this word often from the sport organizations who could provide those opportunities as well. No, we can't do it. No, we don't know how. No, it's too risky. And our goal has, evolved to helping them offer the opportunities. When you help them offer opportunities, then the parents and the children have choice, and they can play. From that philosophy started what we call the BUILD program. It's what right now it consists of 4 core building blocks to help any organization start or grow a program within their organization dedicated to people or kids with disabilities. It can come in different formats, in different ways, different types of programming, but those are our 4 steps. This one here that we are going to share with you is the 3rd step, My First 10, which is essentially aimed at finding your first 10 athletes, your first group of athletes in your program that can make that thing be sustainable and prosper and grow into the future. And Dave, I'll turn this over to you to describe the My First 10 program.
Thanks. As Frank said, what we continue to hear for over a decade is from clubs, from a lot of community clubs, is that we'd love to offer programs, but we just don't know how. It's too risky. There's a bunch of reasons why. So we everything that I guess the way we see this is that, and for the purpose of tonight, we've tried to put everything that we've learned from all the different things we do, from presentations, from research, from partnerships, into this one. It all lands here. Even the language of My First 10. This program is responsive. If you look at the left, it's responsive to all those doubts and questions from the sport community that we'd love to do, but we just don't know how. It responds to the left side of this, which is the no, which is what the parents keep hearing. So this literally, My First 10 sits in between the no, we keep hearing no, and no, we can't do it. And it sits right here. My First 10 has been designed specifically to demonstrate that you can reach 10 very quickly and very easily. In fact, the experience that many people end up having is that when they get their first 10, that very, very quickly can expand from 10 to 50. And the idea here is that if you can manage the first 10, then managing 20, 30, 50, 100 is really the same thing. It's just scaling. So the idea of the My First 10 is to build the confidence through specific techniques to be able to design a program for 10 kids, exactly what your community needs, to build the capacity to do it, to build the program, and then to recruit the kids and the volunteers, because it's two-sided. and then build the program, develop the program, launch the program, and then sustain it. So that's the My First 10. By the time you go through a My First 10, you should have your 10. And there's a lot of other supports that we provide on field, and then post-launch supports to build and evaluate. Today, this is the recruiting part of My First 10 that we're going to focus on, which is the messaging and marketing. And it stands on its own simply because although My First 10 sounds easy, much of the experience that we've heard from clubs that had tried it and then backed away from it was because they went and tried it and got nobody or got one or two. And so this particular part of the program talks specifically about, it's based on a lot of research too, and experience on what the key messages should be, who your targets are. And they're not always obvious targets, but who your targets are, what the messages you're sending to them, and how you actually market to them. And there's different ways to market to them. And when we say them, in My First 10, because we're typically talking about programs for children. So you may be talking about a Learn to Swim program, for example, for children with disabilities, if that's where you're starting an active start type program, or even a mom and tot kind of program. We're not only talking about the athletes, but we're also talking about targeting the parents, because obviously of children. And we're talking about targeting volunteers, because without the parents, you don't get the children. And without the volunteers, you can't support the children typically. So in the recruiting, we are often talking about recruiting athletes via parents and targeting volunteers. Okay.
Thank you. So how do you get to your first 10? And what is the message to attract and to recruit those first 10? Well, the message is really, there's several messages. The first message comes as a consequence of the product that you're offering. The product itself, the program itself is a message, right? A quality program is a message and will be attractive to potential candidate, to potential athletes. So that's number one, but that's not, our focus today. Second is how to craft these messages with respect to your product and what you're offering, and how to frame your product in a way that will attract that mom to join your program. And then three, how to deliver that message, who to deliver it to, and how to get, in order best to get those first 10 athletes. So, and I'm, happy to, if there's any questions at this point, you can put them in the chat box or put your hand up, and glad to chat. So just to touch on number one, the quality product, that's a difficult and a complicated, issue all in itself. And we do have support through the center for organizations to design a quality product. So for example, I was going to do some surveying here. There's actually 4 different surveys that can be pulled from this page, but perhaps we won't do it. But so with respect to what your program looks like, we can help kind of design, or if you don't have one going, or even if you do have one going, what is it? Is it with respect to the inclusion spectrum? Is it parallel, separate, or modified? Who are your participants? Are you focused on sensory, physical, para, cognitive, developmental, or all of the above, or multiple? What level are you at? Is your program, or what level are you interested in? Are you interested in little kids, active start, learn to swim, first experiences in the pool, or active for life, staying active in the pool, or more in the competitive pathway, right? The podium pathway. And then those are just kind of program models or structures, right? Those are components. Then the question of, is your program good? Like, what makes your program good? What are the building blocks to make for quality participation? And there's lots of research and there's some evidence there, right? So that's, you guys, within your webinar series, this is part of your webinar series, creating programs. The reason we bring it up here is because your program becomes part of your marketing message, right? So your program design is a marketing tool. The better product you have, the better this this message. So there's lots of components to it that can respond and meet a need for the community and for your potential participants and their families, and that'll be very attractive. That's a big component of attracting people to your program, getting them to register, right? So community needs, social impact, play to stay, quality participation, et cetera, et cetera. Those become important. So when you are ready, or if you're ready to start or grow your program, we can help. That's another part of the My First 10, designing programs. And we have been part of creating publications that they're essentially knowledge translation type of publications, taking the really good research that's out there, the guidelines that are out there to build programming and applying them to certain sports. We've been part of many of these publications, and that's part of our build. Any thoughts? Pause here for any questions or thoughts about that. Dave, do you have anything else to add before we get right to the messaging?
No, that's great.
Yeah.
I want to hear if there's any questions.
Yeah. So, I probably should have, actually, I know I should have actually asked for some introductions. So why don't we pause here and do a quick round of introductions here, and maybe you can mention where you're from, and if you have a program running or interested in having a program running, and if so, what kind it might be. That could frame this a little bit better for us. Joni, did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, I'm with the Wilmot Aquatic Aces, and we actually have a cognitive and physical right now, and a brand new 5-year-old that's come into the program with physical.
Fantastic. And so these are children, active start kind of,
yeah,
fundamentals kind of level. Excellent. Thank you. And Dusan?
Hi, how are you? My name is Dushan. I'm from Edmonton. I'm working with the Stedford Center here in Edmonton. We're located within the University of Alberta.
Mhm.
And I am the swim coach for the program. And yeah, we're dealing with all the difficulties caused by COVID-19. We have swimmers anywhere between the age of 9 to the early 20s. And we have both developmental and competitive swimmers. Now, last year, unfortunately, we were barely able to swim. Maybe we swam 3 months in total. So far, so good. We started up the year again 3 weeks ago. Numbers in Alberta are not looking good. So we're just hoping that we will be able to keep it open and actually go for swim meets. But yeah, the biggest difficulty I'm dealing with here is restarting the program. Like we used to have 36 swimmers before COVID. I'm only here since last year, so I kind of took it over in the hardest time. As soon as we started, 2 months later, we had to shut down again. We're back to 25 swimmers, so it's pretty good. We lost some volunteers as well. So things looking good, but there's room to improve for sure.
Thank you. That's great. So let us know at the end if there's anything new you learned, because you sound like you're very you're expert in this area, and of course you recognize your publication from the Stedford Center there. That is a great resource for us, and a couple of the P's within the 10P model is exactly what we're talking about here: policy, promotion, partnerships in particular. So if we move on to crafting your message, maybe it is, for return to play. I mean, we're not going to talk about all of the logistics and the difficulties with return to play, processes, but at least messaging with starting up, return to play, or growing. your program, then there's many, targets for the message, and the message is going to be different, and depending on who you're focused on. Are you focused on, the community? Are you focused on partners? Are you focused on the actual athletes themselves, which could be the children? It could be their parents, their families, their friends, volunteers. So the message is needs to be focused, right? Because you have different audiences here, all that can go in to support growth of your adaptive swim program. But obviously, one of the main targets for your message is going to be your athletes, your potential participants. And you may recognize this, Dusan, this is from one of the 10 Ps, the recommendations of one of the 10 Ps of how to become a para-ready club. It's crafting, creating a visible commitment, right, to accessibility inclusion within your club, right? So that could be revising or adding to your vision, your mission statement, or even creating policies that are published and they are for public, view, that you are, accessible and inclusive. So here's a couple that we found. I've pulled some examples that I thought were pretty good. This is a program called Swimming with a Mission Canada, and they give you a little bit about who they are and why we exist. And if you read these things, they really speak to, the target, right? We improve the lives of children with disabilities through swimming. So a mom that reads that, I think would be very attracted to that, very, very welcoming of that. And the mission is clear, right? Affordable, accessible, one-on-one swimming, touching on, I think, important components that any mom might feel is important, right? Children with special needs, accessible. So that's, so if you don't have one as part of your organization, Stedward, that's all you do perhaps, but perhaps many swimming clubs don't have this as part of your mission or vision. And it's a great idea to revise it and to add that if that becomes one of your club's goals.
If I can add there, one of the interesting points that we've learned from talking with both parents and with clubs in terms of this visible commitment to accessibility inclusion, it does seem fairly obvious, the value of it, but there is a problem of inconsistent messaging that seems to occur, because sometimes inclusive programs tend to roll out as a pilot, and not only fully integrated throughout an organization, and therefore it may not land on its website immediately. So while you may be able to find marketing stuff or what's it called, recruitment, enrollment, registration information about the program, and a little brief thing, if a parent goes back into the website and looks back to deeper into the club's policies and it's not there, it often might not be there because it's been built as a one-off. And so part of the problem is sometimes inconsistent messaging, where you have a great message at the front, on the front end, on the consumer facing side, great message of program, etc. And we meet all the 10P or all the great qualities of a program. But when you reach deeper, it's not connected into a specific accessibility and inclusion policy for the club. So, there is that backward kind of thing, a great program, but no connection to a policy, or no way to measure a commitment in the absence of a policy.
Thank you. Yeah. So this is, an excerpt from, a pretty good website, which is an important messaging tool, obviously. Here's another one that I found. These are all, not in Canada, these organizations that, well, that last one was, but not this one. This organization, this swim club, actually does have programs for children with disabilities within their programming collection, but it's kind of not obvious on their website, right? It's not obvious, even though they say things like every kid, and with wording like every kid, you might think that reaches out to every kid, a mom of a kid with a disability, that's not what they get, right? More often than not, they'll phone a club like this that says every kid, and they'll get a no. We can't accommodate a child with a disability. So if you're going to offer the program, then make sure your website is and your messaging is absolutely crystal clear. And here's one of the better ones that I've found, and I'm happy to share these with you if you haven't heard of these organizations. Actually, it's linked here. There it is, onewiththewater.org. Again, this is in the United States. I know there's some good ones in Canada, but I decided to, just to be unbiased here with respect to Canadian ones, just to be an outside one. Swimming lessons for children and adults of any age and ability. And if you scroll down here, it's crystal clear. In fact, let me do that because I have it teed up here. Sorry. So, oh, darn it, of course. There we are. So if you scroll down on their homepage, it is absolutely clear that they have offer programs for people with disabilities, from testimonials to parent, et cetera, and well-trained staff for that. So I think that that's an interesting.
Were you sharing it now? Because I couldn't see anything.
Oh, sorry, you can't see it. Okay, how come? I thought I am. Can you see? Oh, sorry, there it is. Share. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I just didn't click share. But if you click down and I have an excerpt from a different part of their website, their About Me, that makes it crystal clear. Okay, so that's okay. So a well-crafted message is important. What is that message, though? Aside from being clear, that you offer the program to the target, and the target understands that you're offering it for them. Never mind that you're offering the program. That's just one step. What will attract a mom to bring their kid to your program? And by its very nature, sport is about participation. And what we've learned really the hard way over years and years and years of our programming is that the messages of fun and friendships, teamwork, they resonate a lot with parents. So that is become a focus of our programming. And that in turn has brought lots of success to our programming, because that's what parents tell us that they want. Friendships, socialization, teamwork, connections, relationships with volunteers, with the coaches, with the other teammates, et cetera, et cetera. That's an important part of the message. That's even parallel or separate from how good the sport instruction is, which is quite interesting. In some ways, that makes it easier to start a program. I mean, swimming is I think a unique case, obviously, because you're in the pool and there's it's tough for sure. But in other sports, focusing on the fun part and the friendship building part actually might make it easier for organizations that, okay, we can do that, right? So many of our families have told us that making friends and belonging to a team is the most important thing to them. So when we put these things together, and specifically for swimming, every parent wants their child to be able to swim. I think that goes without saying, and you guys probably understand that much better than we do. So a vision or a mission statement related to that on your site is important. But beyond that, beyond the quality of your programming, relationships, friendship making, that's quite important. And what else? What else should be part of your messaging, and how should it be articulated? We've learned a lot from a research project by the CDPP in York University, funded by SSHRC, which resulted in this workshop to establish recommendations for messaging, essentially from targeting messaging. And here are some of the outcomes and recommendations. So your messaging should provide information that clearly identifies your program type and target participant. It's got to be clear that it's for that parent's child, right? And there's a lot more to that that I can say. We've had parents come up to us and their child is clearly someone who would thrive in our sport and in our program, and the parent just doesn't see it. So there's and it's a messaging issue. It's our failing to make that clear. It clearly describes your strategies to overcome barriers for participation, physical barriers, social barriers, safety, cost, time, priority, all these things like that. Remember, the mom gets no many times. Can you handle, can you accommodate my child? No. Can my child register with you? No. So these barriers, physical, so will my child make friends at in your organization? Will other children accept my child in your organization? They give a lot of no's. So those are the types of messaging that are really important. And it also clearly describes the benefits of how you program and how your program will achieve them. In swimming, it's simple, right? We'll teach your child to swim. That is an essential lifelong skill that every person should have. But beyond that, you can imagine what the benefits might be. Yeah, the About Me page. This is from the About Me page of One with the Water, which really speaks a lot about these potential outcomes. So any questions or thoughts at this point on crafting that message?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Darda. Yeah.
So how would, if a program is starting, let's say, and they feel that they are able to accommodate one type of impairment, but not another, how would they go about stating that in a way that is sensitive and comfortable?
Thank you. That's a good question. So, very recently I came across a book, one of those, sort of self-help books, and it was called The Art of Saying No. And part of the message to that is it's okay to say no if you say it the right way, right? If you say it the right way and you give the right reasons for it. So I think certainly getting started, a good piece of advice that we can give organizations is that do what you do best, right? Do what you're comfortable with to get started. So that might be targeting very, very tightly to a certain type of participant, certain type of athlete, right? But if that's very clear, then you won't have a parent asking otherwise. You won't have to say no to the parents because it'll be clear that that's not the program for others, right? Now, at the same time, once you get into this field, Artie, I'm sure you know very well, you might also learn and be aware of and be able to recommend, right, other programs, right? I mean, the goal here is that not that your club caters to every possible athlete. It's like there's multiple clubs all over the place, and yours might be this particular athlete and one nearby is another. So the goal is that you can direct that mom to a nearby program very easily, and then it's okay. Does that help?
It does. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So moving on, our next stage of how to get to my first 10 is now creative marketing, how to deliver that message to the right hands, to the right person. Once you've crafted, you got a great product, you've come up with that marketing message that would be very welcoming and very, people are very receptive to it, even if it is tightly targeted at a certain demographic. Here's the reality. Dave brought this up earlier. You could have the best message, with the best graphics and the nicest flyers, posted to millions of people on Facebook, and still perhaps nobody will come. So why is that? Why won't people come, even if it's the best message? One problem is, or one barrier is that, some parents just still won't believe that this is for their child. They won't believe what they're reading, because they've even inquired what looks like something for their child in the past, and they've gotten that 2-letter word, right? So they might not even bother trying it out, even though it looks really, really good. So an excellent strategy for you, for clubs, is to consider the community model. Consider the community model with respect to recruiting athletes and their families to your club. This will, the advantage here is that you're building through relationships. The community model is advantageous because your targets, your demographics, your families might have trusting relationships with others in the community. And if you can reach them and you can build a connection and a partnership with them so that they, understand what you have to offer, then they in turn can become your recruiters, and they in turn can send you your first 10. Dave, I had some text here, but it disappeared. I apologize for that. Dave, do you have something to add?
Just let me add that, or just position this. I mean, the point of this community development idea is that, many sports or many clubs or whomever take on, because a parent comes to them or somebody comes to them, and they take on the role of, creating it themselves. The idea of the community development model is that if people think that, well, okay, so going back to the question Darda asked, if one parent or one person wants a specific program, well, yeah, it may not be our best, strongest suit, but if you understand and know what's going on in the community, not only are there referrals, but there's also the opportunity to go for the swim club to go talk with the YMCA or with a local municipal recreation program to talk about what it's doing, and maybe it could develop A while we develop B, and so develop C. The idea here was that when we were looking at communities, we're starting to see that it's not, the ability to provide opportunities for everyone to play, and in this case, everyone to swim, is not necessarily the single responsibility of, let's say, Swim Ontario or of a club. It's everybody's responsibility collectively, and everybody has assets. They have, whoever has pools, whoever's instructors, they all contribute together to the bigger equation of how do we get everyone to play. And that's what this model was starting to do, was starting to put sort of the adapted swim program of a club right in the middle, and to show that everybody can contribute in different ways to creating the sum total of different ways that people can swim, people with disabilities can swim within their community. And that's what this model was about. Yeah.
So we had a lot of success with this kind of model in soccer, because once we connected with some strong advocates in the community for sport and play, then they became our pipeline. So luckily, there are some tools that exist to find your community partners and to potentially facilitate that connection. One is this app called Jue, and maybe Dave, I'll let you describe this because you are the Ontario lead for this particular app.
Yeah, Dushan, one of the things we have out here, well, actually, it's a national app developed out of
National,
McGill. Yeah, and it's a navigation tool. It's GPS based. It's in a phone. Anybody uses it you can see the center picture to navigate through different programs, accessible programs that are in the database. So there's arts, camps, sports, and other. And so you can just navigate within 50 kilometers, I believe, of where you're standing. It'll pin all the different programs and link you to their website, give it a short description, and then go to the website, link you to the website. And so that allows us to, even as programmers, to find out very quickly who's in our community, who's developing programs. And I think to the left, these look like a number of the the operators of different programs, adapted programs in our area within 50 kilometers. Autism Ontario Challenge League Sports, and I believe now we have Challenger Baseball, I think, is here. Grandview Kids, Children's Rehab, Inspirational Steps, Nova's Ark, Precious Minds, Special Olympics, and WinReach. These are all the people who would be identified in the different tabs, but collectively, these are all the organizations in our community. So in Edmonton, I think, or yeah, that's where you are, Duchenne. You click on the app and you would see who's all around Stedward, who's all running programs, adapted programs, and go right to their websites. So it's intended for parents to find a program, but we're finding that it also has alternate uses, like programmers can look and see what's in the community. You could quickly see by searching what are the adapted swim programs are there. I don't know if you can search yet at the discrete level of by the LTAD, by Active Start or Fundamentals, but ideally you could, and you'd be able to see, and that would allow you to identify, oh, here's a program that you could refer somebody to, or someone that you could partner with. They could develop the Active Start, somebody could do the fundamentals, and you could learn to compete as you get into the high performance part. And so now you're creating the pathway in the community using JUE. So actually, that's what we've been talking about a little bit with the developers out of McGill, to see the different ways it can be used, not only to connect community partners, but also to develop whether it's a local, regional, provincial, or national pathways. This would potentially be a tool to do that if it's designed properly.
Yeah, not only can you connect with, same sport organizations, you connect with other ones, and you become trusted partners to each other, advocates, and you send back and forth athletes, right? And that provides, a win-win for everybody.
It's an easy way, an easy tool to
yeah.
create, for example, a multi-sport program out of Edmonton or in Windsor or in Toronto, anywhere. I mean, you can just go in and identify 10 different sport, and you can divide it by individual and team. You can divide it by winter and summer, and you can build right off of that app a multi-sport program and just connect with 6 other organizations. And we're doing swimming. You can do, would you be interested in rounding the circle to have 6 as a introductory to multi-sport program for Active Start? And this is just a tool to connect to all other programs.
And lastly, mostly these are who are not on JUE, but maybe someday soon they will be on JUE, are individuals or other organizations who you can connect with and become your advocates, right? Become your recruiters. We've had some great success with this, with our soccer programs, where a parent, no matter what you tell them, no matter what kind of messaging you have, no matter how beautiful the website is, we can teach your child to swim, you must do this, and et cetera, they just won't come. Priorities, whatever it might be. But that special ed teacher of that child telling the parent, hey, you should bring your kid to go play soccer, right? That is a powerful message. And we've had that happen several times. Parents who I would have never, we don't have time for this. This wasn't part of our priority, but we were told to come here, and now we love it. And it's become an important, essential part of our week, kind of thing. So physiotherapist Darda mentioned that was one of her strategies with recruiting athletes, and yeah, it's a real success factor. So these can be, again, people around you, people and eventually when you start building your own athlete base, the parents become your advocates, and they will tell their friends, they will tell the special ed teacher, they will tell the physiotherapist, they will tell the other service providers, who can in turn, hey, and then their best friends to recruit and advocate. And that's, Dave, what you mentioned at the beginning, circling back, to that initial message. That first athlete, that first 2 or 3 or 5 athletes, they are the most difficult, right? Getting that program going and building that athlete. But after that, 10, 20, 30, 50, it can grow. It can grow because of, these best practices and these things that we've experienced over the last 10 years. Dave, anything to
well, I just
yeah.
well, I just add in the messaging part. I mean, two things. One is that again, I go back to the main point that, a lot of the messaging and the strategies for reaching them are, the standard, typical, conventional ones. But again, the target isn't the obvious target, isn't always the obvious target. It's not always the athlete directly. And because it's children, it's the athlete indirectly. And as you said, it's like special needs teachers in the schools. But one of the things that we keep hearing about when you look down there, the fifth bullet, parents and families of children with disabilities, we do know, and they keep telling us all the time that, we heard about this program from another parent. I mean, that network is probably the most powerful. And so part of if the goal is to, or if the question is, where's the best place to find potential participants to registrants for a program, whether it's a first involvement type active start program, or if it's a competitive, a learn to compete program. One of the most powerful ways is to reach the parents of children with disabilities. And there are a number in almost every organization, including children's rehabs, there are always parent advisory groups that can always be reached. And they are probably the highest ratio of conversions to bodies, registrant bodies. If you want numbers, that's one of the most powerful. Second point is that we have done a bunch of in innovation. So what we do is we host innovation sessions where we have a bunch of people sit around and we will say, throw one target at them, like parents or special ed teachers. And then we would say, okay, now let's create a number of different strategies for reaching them, different messages and different strategies. So we can go all around that whole cycle and change up who the target is and what the message is, and then what the vehicle for reaching them is. And we have where's that one slide, Franco, about, maybe it's going back to the 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so at the bottom there, creative marketing. So it's, what's the message, the best message to reach which market? Because each market has a different message you want to send to them. That's first, understanding that. And then second, and how do you reach them? I mean, typically it's, on your website or it's flyers and social media. We beat the heck out of social media. But there are other ways to reach these diverse audience. And we put a few here. Host challenge events, and they can be very public, where you put them out in a mall, and we've done that. We've done things in a mall, demonstration events. We've hosted contests where you can, and it draws people out to try something, and then you have a contest. And then there's incentive type loyalty programs, where if that's more of a retention thing, where you've got your first 10, and now you have some kind of loyalty program where there's an incentive for them to come back next session. We might link something and have an event in between 2 sessions. And if you come to that, you get a discount on the next round. Or if you bring a friend to an event, bring a friend, and then you'll both get a 25% discount on the next round. So there's a bunch of, I guess, to the point in the last slide there, Franco, which is, you can do it. Absolutely, you can do it with, the right messaging understanding who the different targets are, crafting the right message to the right target. A physiotherapist is much different than a parent, that is different than a special ed teacher. Crafting the right message, and then using different techniques to reach them. And when we combine the three, a great product with great message, and great strategy and innovative strategies to reach them. The problem is actually that you're going to get more than 10. I think that's the problem. And then back to Darda's kind of question, which is, well, you can create a very designated, specific My First 10 for this age, an active start only for intellectual, only for amputees, only for whatever, in the context that A, it's a pilot and we're trying something, and B, that we are looking at all other types of programming. This is one of many, and then we're going to pilot this one. And those are some of the contextual way to be able to respond to even one child, one program, and be very sensitive about it and position it as we're starting, we're trying, and we're going to do more.
That's a great way. That's a great message at the end. I'd like to leave some time for questions. Do you have any comments and questions? I had a question mark on one of the slides there. Anybody else? Any other advocates that we've forgotten? I'm curious to hear if you have any ideas about that. And
Or Dushan, has there been anything in terms of, has there been very specific strategies that you've heard of or that you've used that turned up a lot of participants maybe we're missing?
So at the center here, there's other people that working on that. We work together, of course, having meetings, creating sort of like a view the next few years, what we want to do and how we want to get there. But my actual job is more focused on the swim team itself. So the marketing and how to get the message through and stuff like that is not that closely related to my area. But having said that, I need to be aware of what's going on, because when the parents and the kids showing up, then I have to act accordingly, like accordingly of what the program is about and the whole center. And I have a little, and thank you for calling me an expert or earlier, Franco. I'd like to think I am an expert in swimming, but I am definitely not an expert in paraswimming, as I just started a year ago. So I'm actually new and everything is new to me. So I'm trying to participate as many seminars like this as possible, and just gathering all the information. One of the question I have, just a quick question about this Chewy app. Is it something that I can just simply go on the App Store and download it, or is there annual fee or monthly fee, or how does that work?
No, it's totally free, and you just go directly on and just download it from the App Store.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
And Dushan, let me comment on what you said, right? You're about para and the disability area, right? Getting into it from sports. So certainly, some of us out there, some of you out there are experts, right, in that field, and you know the area, and you have very good insights or training on how to build a great program specifically for your participant with a disability. I did not when I started. I just walked on the field and started playing. I knew nothing about it, and because of that, aside from being obsessive with safety, because that's an important message, our most successful message was just come on out. We're gonna have some fun, right? We're gonna have some fun and make some friends. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to teach your kids soccer. I don't know if I'm going to be able to teach them how to kick, how to run, how to throw, how to do any of it. And we ended up going into that area, but the message that we're just going to have some fun and keep your kids safe by doing it, that turned out to resonate. So we didn't need to be, at least at the beginning, we didn't need to be, experts on adaptive play and outcomes, physio outcomes or therapy. We strictly said that we're not therapists. I'm not a special ed teacher. We're not physiotherapists. We're not experts. We're just out to have some fun. That actually was a good message for our parents that resonated. Now, since then, we've got a slide full of partnerships and accomplishments, and we've gone into that in great depth, into the weeds of how to get some, physio outcomes and many other outcomes on the soccer field, with a soccer ball, without a soccer ball. So that's been an excellent journey, but that was not that important as part of the message. The message was, opportunities just to enjoy, have some fun, make some friends. I think you're lucky that in the pool, you have, in addition to that potential message, just have some fun and make some friends, the crucial message that will teach your child to swim. I think that's an unbeatable combination in my mind.
Yeah, you're right. I think so. There's two things that I learned the last year. Is one is that para swimming, there's everything included that swimming included, like if you compare to it an able-bodied swim team, but there's way more, right? So there was a seminar where Michelle Berube from I don't know if you know him, Michel Berube is a high-level paraswim coach and worked with the paraswim team for decades, I think. And he said, and I totally agree with that now, is that he would recommend every single swim coach to spend some time with paraswimmers, whether they teaching paraswim or coaching paraswim or not, because it just makes you a better coach. And I totally agree on that. As I said, it includes everything, but a lot more, and it just makes you a better coach. You're gonna know differences and comparing things way better. The other thing that resonates more than what you just said, I learned, is that it's way easier to please the parents of para swimmers. They just, many times they just happy that their child has have a place to go, and where they all included and they happy. And if they get to the Olympics, that's great. If not, but they're happy, that's great as well. And that's the other thing I learned.
Yeah.
Most of our parents I've met in the last year are very, very thankful that just simply they have a place to go. That's my.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I hope, for that's an enabling message for organizations to start their programs, right? It's just start it, just have it going, and then great things will happen. You mentioned that for coaches, right? What the benefits are and what the rewards are. Well, that's we haven't even talked about that, right? Messaging, if you're recruiting volunteers or coaches, to this, that there's enormous benefits for them. Even messages of benefits that it brings to your club with respect to opportunities for swimmers within your club who can rotate in as volunteers to help with the accessible program. Those could become recruiting messages for all of your athletes, right? For all and any participants throughout your club, if you offer both types of programming. So, yeah, we haven't touched that. That's another topic.
Yes, that is another topic that potentially we will tap into in the future.
Right.
I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank Dave and Franco so much for their presentation. You have such a wealth of knowledge and a system set up that is concise and I think something that clubs can use and think about as they look to expand their offerings for para swimmers. So thank you very much. I greatly appreciate your time.